Let's roll! Welcome everyone, and this is going to be a spray painting of one of my all-time favourite 1980s cartoons and toy series, Transformers. This is going to be Optimus Prime, a very Generation 1 version of Optimus Prime. And this is going to be a complete and utter stencil fest. Here we have stencil number 1. So keep an eye out for the number of stencils I use in this one. Please take a minute to like and share this video, and if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button on my channel and hit the bell so you know when I put out a new video. So this stencil here is just going to be some light and dark blues, and I'm just going to use my straight edge here to get a nice effect, 3D effect on one of his legs. And you'll see the stencil has been weighed down with a lot. Sorry for that interruption, folks, that's my phone. We'll just turn that off. So you'll see the stencil has been weighed down with some nuts and bolts, and I press down on the edges sometimes with my palette knife just to stop any bleeding of the paint. So let's see how this one has turned out. Stencil number 1, vamos. Off we go. Yes, there we go. That's looking pretty good. Looking good. So next stencil, number 2, is going to be mostly his torso and the arms. Here we go. You'll see I've done this one in red already. I have practiced this one before I've done the video, so I don't make a complete and utter mess and waste hours of time trying to edit a video. So this one is just the plain red for his torso and arms. We'll spray that on quickly, using bolts again to weigh down the edges. And with this I just spray lightly over that. You don't want to slosh the whole stencil with paint because it's just going to end up dripping and it's just going to end up bleeding through the edges. So you just want to lightly cover it enough so that the colour is solid enough for you, but not so much that when you peel it off it's practically three-dimensional with paint. So here we go, stencil number 2. Yes! That's looking good. Even then it's starting to look like Optimus Prime. Mr. Prime is in the house. So stencil number 3. This one cut a lot more, and it's going to be greys and whites. And I'm going to mention here that all these stencils that I draw them freehand, and I cut them freehand. I don't have a stencil cutting machine like you'll see on the web. You see some of these printers that will cut stencils for you. I don't have one of them, and nor do I have Photoshop to create stencils for me from my painting. So I just basically do this all by hand, which is very time consuming, but it's cheaper. And if you want me to show you how I do this by hand, please leave a comment below, and I may do a video of my next one, which might be Megatron, by the way. I might do a whole series of Transformers G1, so comment below as well with who your favourite one is. Was it Megatron, Prime, Soundwave, Hot Rod, Cup? There's loads of them. I could actually go on forever just doing spray paint art on Transformers. So anyway, hit a like if you like Transformers. That's the point of this. So this one I'm putting on a base layer of grey paint, and I'm just pressing down all the edges here so it doesn't bleed, and then I'm going to mist the top of the grey with white. And this is just going to make it kind of show through as a kind of off-white colour, nearly kind of silvery grey colour. And this will give them the metal effect of the white bits. Prime G1 was basically grey, blue, white and red. And as they've kind of evolved throughout the years, Prime's got more complicated with his colouring and more detailed. But this one I wanted to look pretty much like the G1 version, but maybe with a few more details. So this is stencil number 3, coming off. And there you go, see what's happened with the grey and white? Just showing through enough. If you sprayed white on white paper, you ain't going to see it, so that's why I had to put grey underneath first. So that's looking pretty good. That's stencil number 3. This is number 4, stencil 4. This is black. This is a lot of detail in this stencil, a lot of cutting. And you know, I can reuse these stencils over and over again, so if you're doing this yourself, you can paint it more than once, or you can alter it as you're going. But for this one, this is a detailed stencil, all the black going into it. So weighing it down again with the bolts, pressing down on my straight edge, and I'm misting the black on. This black I've got is pretty thick, so you have to be careful not to just slop it on there. Just have to put it on nice and evenly, and then we'll take off stencil number 4 and see what that leaves us with. Yes! I got a big gun. Gun, tiles, details, arms, everything's there in black. Starting to look pretty good now. Next we have stencil number 5. 5. And this is overlaying some of the red we've put on with a darker red just to give it that kind of 3D effect. Stencil number 5. Total time for this, I can't remember. It took me about probably the best part of a week to draw and cut all the stencils. And I'm only doing this at night time. You know, I do work during the day, so I do this in the evenings when I have time. So let's say a week for that. And then a couple of days to paint it, because I like to let everything dry naturally before I put the next stencil on top. So yeah, probably just about a week and a half in total for this one painting. So it is quite a lot of time, but it's worth it. It looks pretty good. This is stencil 5. So I've just sprayed some yellow highlights on his legs, and here's the darker red that I'm putting on. Stencil number 5 coming off. There we go, see that? Look. Darker red in his arm and bits of his lower torso, and then the little yellow highlights on his legs. So this is stencil numero 6. This one is for the windows of the truck, which make up his pecs. And then I'm going to spray white onto the background of the Autobot symbol that shows up on his arm. A couple of wee yellow bits here and there, and the faceplate. Prime's famous faceplate. Now, I didn't know until I watched the Michael Bay movie that the faceplate on the Michael Bay one actually comes off to reveal his mouth. But on this one, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think in the G1 cartoon Prime ever lost his faceplate and you saw a mouth. So in this one, I'm doing a faceplate. And here I'm just covering half of the dark grey and spraying it white just to reflect light on one side of the faceplate to give it that famous Optimus Prime shape. But yeah, I don't ever remember seeing Prime without a faceplate. You always had it, and then when you saw it in the film, I was like, whoa, what the heck is that? But it worked. I liked the films. The films are excellent. Now look what's happened here. I've been too quick there. I've put that stencil on top just before the other layer is 100% dried. That's okay, we can just spray over it again. We can just go over it again if we need to, but this one's coming off not too badly. Sometimes it just is a little bit tacky when it peels off. Look at that, there's his faceplate, and there is the start of the Autobot symbol on his left shoulder. Okay, so let's put on stencil number 7, which is again more red paint and more little highlights on his arm. Both of his arms there, just a little stencil, not too much. And this one is stencil number 8 that I'm putting on. Now, it looks the same as one we used before for the chest plate, but if you notice, I've just cut some more details in the arm and the grille part of the truck there. So rather than using a whole other bit of paper for another stencil, stencil number 8 is a continuation of one we saw earlier, but it's still 8 stencils, so I'm counting it. So I'm going to cover up the bits of I don't want paint to go on. Is that a Christmas turkey? It is. I'm going to cover up the bits with stencils and weigh it down, and I'm only spraying in the grey for some more detail on the front grille, which is Prime's abs. Looks as if he's got like an 8-pack going on there. It's okay, so just lightly spray that one in. And sometimes when you're doing these stencils you might think, oh, it could use a bit more detail. I could do with cutting another couple of wee bits there. It might look okay in the stencil, but when you spray it on you think, nah, it needs a bit more. That's what happened here. I thought it needed a bit more in the grill. See, look at that. The grill just looks that bit more detailed now than it was before. That's better. So this is stencil number 9. And this is the same bit of paper that I used for the first stencil, but all I've done here is I've cut out the detail of the Autobot symbol, and that's all I'm going to spray on this stencil. Just some detail, and I'm just going to spray in the red, and that was footery to cut. It was quite small, but I wanted it to look pretty much bang on what the Autobot symbol looked like in 1984. So it took a little bit of time to cut this one precisely. So I'm just going to spray it with red and see how this one turns out. And as you can see, all these stencils I've used, they're all the same size of paper, so you don't get them wrong. There we go, look, yes! That turned out not too bad at all. Autobots roll out. Shame I couldn't do a transforming video. Maybe I'll do his truck next and do a kind of merge into transformation. Who knows, that would be difficult to paint. So this is stencil number 10, but it's not really another stencil, it's just basically covering up everything that we've done so that I can spray in the background. So we'll call it 10 stencils in total. You have to cut 10, so this is a 10 stencil painting. This is quite a lot, and they're pretty big. This size of paper is actually SRA2, and it's about 45 centimetres by about 64 centimetres. So it's just slightly bigger than A2. And it's pretty thick. It's 300 GSM clear gloss card, so it is pretty thick paper. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to spray paint a space scene in the background, not doing any planets or anything like that. I'm going to have them standing on what we think is Cybertron, and I'm just going to spray in some space details in the background. So I'm just using some purples, I'll use some blues of course, and we'll spray on some stars and just give it a nice background really. I'm going to put some texture into it. You'll see me doing this in other spray paintings. So you'll spray on a top colour and you can use some scrunched up paper to peel off that top colour and leave a kind of textured effect underneath. Really good for space scenes, and it will show through as if it's a kind of space nebula type, galaxy type thing. So here we go, just scrunch up a piece of paper randomly and just rub your fingers across the top of it. And if my head gets out of the way, you'll see it. See, it leaves a kind of effect like that. So we'll do a couple of them, run about the blues and the reds, and then we'll spray on Cybertron as the planet that he's standing on. Now what I'm going to do with Prime as well is, I'm going to spray around the whole stencil with white. This will really make him pop from the background, make him pop out the page. And Prime should have an aura around him anyway. He was cool. So let's give him that. So let's put this right round him. Again, not spraying too far, almost spraying directly on top of the stencil that we put there, and just letting the edges kind of blur out from the background. And this will make him stand out. Now I'm flicking on the stars. So just putting a little bit of paint onto my middle finger, just flicking off the first excess, and then flick on the rest from about a foot away, and that will give you some nice star effects. And what I'm doing now is I've sprayed some grey on the bottom, and I'm just putting on some paper to leave some kind of edges and lines as if it's the kind of ground of Cybertron, if you like. It was always kind of looked like metal plates that they were driving and standing on, so I'm just going to put that there. And it doesn't have to be too detailed, it's just for the foreground, as long as it kind of gives the impression of him standing on a planet or standing on ground. That's the effect I was looking for. And then I'll just edge in some lines, just using my palette knife. Hopefully you can see that in camera. It's just putting in some very, very faint kind of white lines. Pretty easy to do. I'll just score them in very lightly. And we shall sign this one at this point in time. We'll just spray a little bit of clear coat on it. That just allows the palette knife to scrape away more paint. Sign it. SprayArtGuy. And then we're ready to take off the weights, and let's get this stencil off and see the finished product. Optimus Prime, are you ready to join the Autobots? To lead the Autobots? Would you prefer Optimus Prime or Rodimus Prime? Everyone said Hot Rod was responsible for Optimus's initial death, but was he really? Did Megatron know exactly what he was doing in the movie? Who knows? But he came back, didn't he? So here we go, we're lifting this off. Very careful, don't mess up. And yes! I'm really happy with that. So comment below what you think. I really like the outcome of this one. This is really, really good. I'm happy with the way that turned out. So won't be making any more changes to this one apart from spraying on some clear coat. And I think we could do more. I think we could do Megatron. I think we could do Soundwave. I think we could do more dynamic scenes with fighting. So please comment below if you want to see more of these. And I may even put this one up for sale on my Etsy store. If you haven't checked out my Etsy store already, the link is in my YouTube About channel. I'll put it in the description below as well. Have a look. And I've got all my paintings for sale there. And if you haven't checked out my Instagram, please follow me on Instagram as well, and Facebook. Yes, we're finished. That was a long haul. That was a good shift. Been a good shift to do this one. And that is him, Optimus Prime, ready for action. Please hit a like, leave a comment below, let me know, and we'll take a little zoom in. And as usual, I shall catch you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. This is SprayArtGuy signing out.